Ladies and gentlemen, there's something I want to share with you today, something that could save you years of frustration and missed opportunity. It's a principle, a quiet one, a powerful one. Here it is, don't tell everyone your story. Now, I didn't say don't have a story. I didn't say don't learn from your story. And I certainly didn't say your story isn't valuable. No, your story might be filled with struggle, grit, and survival. It might be full of triumphs no one ever applauded and pain no one ever saw. That's fine. That's part of life. That's part of you. But hear me, your story isn't meant for everyone. And it isn't meant for all the time. See, some people share their story because they want sympathy. Others share it because they want validation. But if you're constantly telling the world where you've been, you may never give yourself the chance to focus on where you're going. Sometimes we get addicted to explaining ourselves, to justifying why we're not further ahead. You don't understand what I've been through. Let me tell you what happened to me. Listen, I get it. Life's not fair. But it doesn't have to be fair for you to win. It just has to be yours. Here's a truth that changed my life. Easy. You can't build the future while being chained to the past, even if the chains are made of your own words. Let me offer you a better way. Build silently. Grow quietly. Let your results speak so loudly that they echo in rooms you've never entered. The strongest roots grow underground in silence. And the tallest trees, they don't go around explaining how deep their roots are. They just grow and touch the sky. And when the time is right, when you've grown, when your fruit is ripe and the harvest is visible, that's when your story has power. Because then it's not just a tale of pain, it's a testimony of purpose. And that, my friend, is what inspires. There's a certain freedom in understanding that not everyone deserves to know your story. It's a subtle truth. But once it clicks, it changes how you move through the world. You see, your story, your real story, isn't just a string of events. It's your history, your battles, your private wins, and your quiet losses. It's the long nights no one saw, the sacrifices you made in silence, the decisions that hurt but had to be made. That story is sacred, and not everyone has earned the right to hear it. We live in a world that encourages oversharing. Social media has made it normal to announce every detail of our lives as if visibility equals value. But there's a cost to giving too much of yourself to people who haven't proven they'll handle it with care. When you tell your story too freely, too quickly, you often give people ammunition before they've earned your trust. Some will use your vulnerability against you, not out of cruelty, but out of their own lack of understanding. Others might mean well, but they simply don't have the capacity to hold the weight of what you've been through. There's wisdom in being selective. It doesn't mean you're closed off or emotionally distant. It means you respect yourself enough to recognize that your story has worth. And not everyone treats valuable things the same way. Easy. A stranger doesn't need to know why you carry a certain fear. A coworker doesn't have to understand the trauma that shaped your work ethic. Even some friends and family might not be the right audience for certain chapters of your life. And that's okay. Holding back doesn't make you dishonest. It makes you intentional. The most powerful people aren't the ones who tell everything. They're the ones who could, but choose not to. They understand timing. They understand audience. They understand that some parts of their story are still being written and some wounds are still healing. Sharing those too soon can interrupt the process of becoming. When you share prematurely, you risk reducing deep, complex experiences to surface-level conversations. People nod, smile, maybe offer advice, but they don't truly see you. and then you walk away feeling more exposed than supported. That's the danger of giving too much of your story to someone who hasn't earned the right to hear it. They can't carry the weight of your truth, so they set it down, often without realizing they've dropped something sacred. There is a time and place for your story, a right moment, a right person. And when that moment comes, when someone has shown they have the maturity, the empathy, and the depth to listen, not just hear, but really listen, then the act of sharing becomes something transformative. Until then, silence can be a shield. Privacy can be power. You don't need to explain every scar to justify your strength. You are allowed to keep pieces of yourself just for you. You're allowed to let your actions speak louder than your explanations. You're allowed to walk into a room and carry your story with dignity without putting it on display. And when people wonder how you became who you are, you can smile, not because you're hiding anything, but because you know not everyone deserves your story. It's easy to get stuck in the past. After all, the past is familiar. You've already lived it, already felt it, already survived it. It has a strange kind of comfort, even when it's painful. But no matter how much time you spend there, you can't change it. You can't edit the chapters that embarrassed you, erase the moments that broke you, or rewrite the decisions you wish you had made differently. What's done is done. And the more time you spend reliving it, the more you risk missing what's right in front of you, your future. Living in the past can be deceptive. It can feel productive, like you're processing things, like you're learning from it. And yes, some reflection is necessary. There's value in looking back to understand what happened and why. But there's a fine line between learning from the past and living in it. If you're telling the same old story, thinking the same old thoughts, nursing the same old wounds, you're not growing. You're not moving. You're just rehearsing pain. Sometimes we replay our failures over and over again as if repetition will offer redemption. But it doesn't. Regret doesn't pay back lost time. Guilt doesn't fix what's broken. The truth is, the past only has power over you when you continue to give it your energy. Every moment you spend emotionally anchored to yesterday is a moment you've stolen from your future. There are people who never move forward because they're still holding on to who hurt them, what went wrong, or where they fell short. They wear their history like armor, thinking it protects them from being hurt again. But what it really does is keep them from being free. You can't embrace tomorrow if your hands are full of yesterday's weight. There's also the danger of defining yourself by your past. Maybe you made mistakes. Maybe you failed. Maybe you were broken in ways no one saw. But that's not who you are. That's what happened to you. There's a difference. You are not the sum total of your worst days. You are not your losses, your heartbreaks, your missed chances. You are the person who survived those things, who got up and kept going. That matters more than anything behind you. Some people keep telling the same story because they're still looking for closure. But closure isn't always something you find. Sometimes it's something you choose. Sometimes the door won't shut on its own. You have to close it yourself. Not because you're forgetting, but because you're deciding it no longer gets to control you. That's the real power. Not in rewriting the past, but in refusing to let it write your future. You can look back without going back. You can honor what you've been through without letting it define you. The past can be your teacher, but it should never be your master. And if you're constantly revisiting your old stories, your old pain, your old failures, then you're not giving yourself the chance to write new ones. Every time you replay what went wrong, you delay. You delay what could go right. Progress only happens in the present. Healing only happens now. Growth only happens when you're willing to leave behind what no longer serves you. That doesn't mean denying the past. It means refusing to be ruled by it. Life moves forward. Time moves forward. And if you want to move forward too, you have to stop setting up camp in yesterday. The past can inform you, shape you, even humble you, but it cannot hold you unless you let it. And once you understand that, you start to see that everything you want, everything you can still become is not behind you. It's ahead, always ahead. Validation feels good. Let's be honest. It feels good to be seen, heard, and approved of. It feels good when someone nods in agreement, claps for your progress, or tells you you're doing great. But the problem with chasing validation is that it can quickly become a substitute for real growth. And when you rely too much on the approval of others, you stop asking yourself a more important question: am I becoming who I want to be? Growth doesn't always look impressive. It's not always visible from the outside. Some of the most important changes happen in silence when no one's watching. Growth is choosing discipline over comfort, responsibility over excuses, and then long-term gain over short-term applause. But if you're addicted to validation, you'll be tempted to choose what looks good over what actually is good for you. The danger with constantly seeking approval is that it puts your self-worth in someone else's hands. One compliment and you feel high, one criticism and you feel crushed. You're no longer living from the inside out. You're reacting from the outside in. Your decisions get shaped not by your values, but by your audience. You stop asking, is this right for me? And start asking, will they like this? That's not growth. That's performance. Growth requires honesty. It requires asking tough questions and sitting with uncomfortable answers. It means confronting your flaws, admitting your mistakes, and making changes even when no one else sees the effort. Growth is showing up on the days when you feel invisible. It's choosing to keep going even when no one's clapping. That's the difference between someone who's developing and someone who's just displaying. There's nothing wrong with being appreciated. It's natural to want support. But the moment you let applause guide your actions, you've already given up your direction. The truth is, real growth is often boring. It's waking up early, saying no to distractions, doing the hard thing over and over again. It doesn't always come with praise or recognition. In fact, sometimes the people around you won't understand what you're doing. They'll wonder why you're changing, why you're pulling back, why you're no longer chasing the same things. That's okay. You're not obligated to be understood. You're obligated to become better. When you prioritize growth, you start living with purpose. You stop needing constant reassurance because you know what you're building. You trust the process even when the results aren't instant. You know the roots are growing even if no one sees the leaves yet. That kind of self-assurance doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment, from knowing you're doing what's necessary, not just what's popular. Validation fades. People's opinions change. One day they praise you, the next day they criticize you. If your identity is built on their approval, you'll constantly feel unstable. But if your identity is built on your personal growth, on who you're becoming, you gain a kind of peace that doesn't need to be broadcast. It's a quieter path, but it's a stronger one. Because in the end, growth will give you what validation never can: confidence that isn't conditional, progress that isn't performative, and a future that isn't dependent on anyone else's permission. You don't need everyone to clap for you. You just need to keep going. Let your transformation be the loudest thing in the room. even if no one hears it at first. There is a quiet kind of power in letting your results speak for you. In a world that thrives on noise, constant updates, endless explanations, and the need to prove something to everyone, it's tempting to talk about what you're doing more than actually doing it. But the truth is, results always speak louder than promises, plans, or words. Results are the proof. They are the evidence, and they never need defending. Talking about what you're going to do is easy. It feels good. It gives a sense of progress, even when nothing has been done yet. But the more you talk, the more pressure you create to follow through. Not always for yourself, but for your audience. You become more focused on appearing committed than actually being committed. That's where people get stuck in the image of success rather than the process of earning it. When you let your results speak, you shift your energy from performance to production. You stop announcing every move and start building in silence. You start measuring your progress by your own standards, not by how many people notice what you're doing. That's where real momentum builds, not in seeking attention, but in maintaining focus. One of the greatest things about results is that they can't be denied. You don't have to explain that you've improved. People see it. You don't have to convince anyone you've changed. Your actions reflect it. And if they don't see it right away, that's okay. Because you're not doing it for applause. You're doing it because you know what it means to you. That kind of drive lasts. It doesn't fade when the compliments stop. It's rooted in something deeper than attention. Some people spend more time explaining their goals than executing them. They want everyone to know what they're up to, where they're going, and what they're aiming for. But over time, that habit can become a distraction. It gives you the illusion of action without the cost of effort. You become more focused on how you look on the journey than on actually arriving at the destination. Letting your results speak keeps you grounded. It reminds you that success isn't in the announcement. It's in the achievement. There is also strength in restraint. When you're silent about your moves, you give yourself space to change direction, to adjust, to fail, and to learn without the weight of other people's expectations. You don't owe anyone a step-by-step breakdown of your progress. You owe yourself the chance to grow at your own pace without the pressure of constant validation. And when the time is right, when the work is done, the results will say everything that needs to be said. Results eliminate the need for defense. You don't have to argue with people who doubt you. You don't have to over-explain to people who don't understand your vision. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth or capability. When the fruit appears, no one questions whether the seed was real. And when you've done the work, truly done it, your results become undeniable. They speak in rooms you haven't even entered yet. Letting results speak is about humility. It's about trusting the process more than the platform. Easy, it's about doing the right thing consistently, knowing that the outcome will speak when the time is right. And even if no one's watching now, even if the progress is slow or unnoticed, you keep going. Because you're not chasing praise, you're building something real, and in the end, easy. That reality will speak louder than anything you could ever say. Real power doesn't come from pretending to have it. It comes from transformation, the quiet, difficult, often unseen process of becoming someone new. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen without resistance. But when you choose to grow instead of staying stuck, when you decide to change instead of repeating the same patterns, you step into a power that no one can give you and no one can take away. Transformation begins when you're honest with yourself. It starts when you stop making excuses Stop blaming other people and stop running from what needs to be faced. It's that moment when you say, this isn't working anymore, and actually do something about it. That's not weakness, that's power. Because most people stay where they are. Most people talk about change, but never truly do the work. The ones who do, the ones who transform, they earn something deeper than just a new look or a better title. They earn a new life. There's a cost to transformation. It demands discomfort. It asks you to let go of things you've carried for years. Old habits, outdated beliefs, familiar pain. It asks you to walk away from what's known and step into uncertainty. And it's tempting to turn back, to go back to the old version yourself, because it's easier, because it's safer, because it doesn't ask as much of you. But real change means walking through that fear, not around it. Power is built in those steps forward, shaky, unsure, but honest. You can't fake transformation. You can fake confidence. You can fake success. You can even fake happiness. But transformation shows up in your decisions, in your mindset, in the way you respond to life. When things get hard, it shows up in the way you carry yourself, not with arrogance, but with quiet strength. Because when you've been through something and grown from it, you don't need to explain it. People can feel it. That's what makes transformation powerful. It doesn't just change your circumstances. It changes you. It gives you wisdom that can't be learned from books, clarity that doesn't come from outside advice, and resilience that no one can teach you. You earn it by enduring, by staying in the fire long enough to come out refined. That kind of change doesn't just improve your life, it deepens your character, it strengthens your foundation, and it becomes a kind of power that moves with you no matter where you go. Some people fear transformation because they think it means losing who they are. But the truth is, you're not losing yourself. You're shedding what's been holding you back. You're peeling off layers that never really belonged to you in the first place. The opinions you absorbed, the roles you played, easy the identity you outgrew. You're not becoming someone else. You're finally becoming you. The world tries to tell you power comes from position, from popularity, from possessions. But that kind of power is fragile. It disappears the moment those things are taken away. True power is internal. It's rooted in your willingness to grow, to evolve, to become better, even if no one's watching. Especially if no one's watching, because that's when transformation is real. That's when it lasts. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to prove it. Just keep doing the work. Keep showing up. Keep choosing growth. Every time you rise above the old version of yourself, you build something stronger inside you. And one day, you'll look back and realize that all the struggle, all the letting go, all the lonely moments, they weren't setbacks. They were the foundation of your strength. That's the kind of power transformation brings. Not loud, not flashy, but unshakable. Silence is often misunderstood. People mistake it for weakness, for lack of knowledge, or for absence of confidence. But silence, when chosen with intention, can be one of the most powerful tools a person has. It's not the silence of fear or avoidance. It's the silence of wisdom, of restraint, of control. In a noisy world where everyone is in a rush to speak, post, explain, or defend, silence becomes a strategy. It allows you to observe, to listen, to think clearly, and to move with purpose rather than impulse. There is power in not reacting immediately. When you hold your tongue, you create space. And in that space, you gain clarity. You start to notice things others miss. People's true intentions, unspoken dynamics, patterns in behavior. While others are busy trying to be heard, you're gathering information, conserving energy, and choosing your next move with precision. Strategic silence doesn't mean you have nothing to say. It means you know that not everything needs to be said, at least not right now. Sometimes the most effective response is no response at all. Not every insult requires a comeback. Not every accusation deserves your energy. When you engage with every voice that demands your attention, you give away your power. But when you remain silent, you stay centered. You're not pulled into arguments you didn't start or battles that aren't worth fighting. You begin to understand that silence is not a void, it's a position of control, of awareness, of peace. Strategic silence also gives you room to grow. When you're not busy explaining yourself to everyone, you have time to focus inward. You can make changes without announcing them, take action without permission, and build without distraction. While others are performing for approval, you're progressing in the background. You learn to be content with your own validation, and in doing so, you become immune to the noise around you. That's not just strategy, that's freedom. There's wisdom in silence during conflict. In moments of anger, silence can prevent damage. Words said in haste can't be taken back. But silence gives you time to process, to cool down, and to choose a better response later. It's not about suppression, it's about maturity. It's about knowing that emotional control is strength, not silence for the sake of passivity, but silence that chooses to wait for the right time to speak with intention, not reaction. In relationships, silence can reveal more than words. When you stop filling the space just to be heard, you start to listen differently. You notice what's being said between the lines, what's not being said at all. People show themselves when you're quiet long enough. They reveal who they are when you're not interrupting with your own version of the story. Strategic silence allows you to connect more deeply, not just with others, but with yourself. There's also a protective quality to silence. Not everyone needs to know what you're thinking, what you're planning, or what you're feeling. Silence becomes a boundary. It keeps your energy from being drained by overexposure. When you no longer feel the need to explain or justify yourself, you reclaim your peace. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts. Not everyone has earned the right to your voice. In the right hands, silence becomes a signal. It can disarm, it can unsettle, it can provoke thought. It gives weight to the words that do eventually come. Because when someone known for being thoughtful finally speaks, people tend to listen more closely. That's the power of using silence strategically, not as an absence of strength, but as the careful holding of it. When you learn when to speak and when to stay silent, you gain something rare, control over not just your voice, but your impact.